أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, sisters. Last time we talked about how to have a mindset for tarbiyah. And we said whenever you want to start off with something, you have to get your mind set in order for you to accept that thing and look to it in the right way. We talked about how we have to set our minds to tarbiyah, and we said we have 5 golden rules in order to have the right tarbiyah mindset. We said, first of all, we have to understand what tarbiyah is. And number 2, we have to understand that tarbiyah is not just a fitrah. It's also knowledge that you have to learn. We also said that tarbiyah is going to be a struggle and a challenge, and we all have to accept and be ready to face this challenge. Number 4, we said tarbiyah was a long time or a long-term investment. So if you guys, inshallah, want a lot of hasanat until the day of judgment, the best thing for you guys to invest in is Muslim children, inshallah. Good Muslim, pious children, bi'idnihi ta'ala. We also said, all right, we're having a problem right here, sisters. Okay. All right. Let me go back and say what I said. So we said last time we were talking about how to get the right tarbiyah mindset. And we talked about the 5 golden rules. We understood what tarbiyah was. We understood that tarbiyah is a natural thing in mothers and fathers, but you can't just take it by nature. You also have to understand and learn it. So it is knowledge. So you have to do your work on that, in that thing. Number 3, we said we have to accept the tarbiyah as being a struggle. And number 4, we said it was a long-term investment. And number 5, we said that we don't own our children. Our children are an amana or a trust. So for this reason, we have to deal with our children as an amana and a trust. Okay, so this is what we basically talked about last class, because we said if you want to get ready for anything, you have to have your mindset for tarbiyah. And here I want to ask you guys a question. These 5 golden rules, or the ways we get our mindset, did you guys work on getting this mindset? Did everybody like to try to reprogram their minds in order to be looking to the tarbiyah in a positive way, in order to be knowing what they're going to be doing? Because a lot of people don't understand what they're going to be doing in tarbiyah. So having this mindset, it should be helping you a lot more and helping you to be more productive mothers. So here I just want to hear from you guys, because I gave you the class last week. So I just want to, check up and make sure that these 5 mindsets are, you guys are having progress in them and you're working on them in a better way. So would anybody like to comment on the mindset here before I go on to our new class? Nobody wants to say anything? Oh, okay, Sister Karima.
Yeah, I just have been more mindful with my time,
Right.
with my daughters, with tarbiyah in mind, because sometimes just getting lost in the daily routine, go to school, pick up dinner, homework, and I was just more mindful of making sure I incorporate some intentional tarbiyah every evening, no matter how tired or busy or what. That's the wrong one. Yeah. No matter how tired I am, so because without that mindset, days and days and days could go by without intentionally asking myself, what tarbiyah did I do with the kids today?
That's a good thing, Sister Karima. So that means you have your goals set for the day. And here I just want to remind you guys, we said that tarbiyah was 5 things. You were supposed to be instilling the beliefs and the values and the morals and the ethics. You should be making sure that you instill and establish the right interests in your children. You should be teaching them the right skills and looking for their skills in order for you to enhance them. We also said you have to teach them how to have healthy relationships, and you have to teach them how to choose the right role models. So every day that goes by, every minute, every hour, you should ask yourself, what things did I do for tarbiyah today? And you should have like a sheet and like a check sheet and say, well, did I do anything that has to do with tarbiyah today? Because we said there's a difference between tarbiyah and caretaking. So tarbiyah is a very general word that caretaking goes under, but caretaking is not only the what? The tarbiyah. Okay, today, you guys might be surprised about what I'm going to be talking about today, but today we're going to be talking about something very, very, very important. And that's why I'm not only going to be talking about it today, but I'm also going to be talking about it today and in next class. So I made 2 classes to talk about this because I feel that after you have your mindset for tarbiyah, remember when I told you guys, it's like you're in a journey or you're in a race. So you say, get ready, get set, and go. So we've got our mindset, and right now we're going to do what? We're going to go. But now the question is, if you're going to go out there for parenting, what's the first step in parenting? How are you going to have children? How are you going to become a parent? The only way for you to have children is by doing what? By getting married. So for this reason, you know, they always say that a sound mind is in a healthy body. And I say that a healthy child, physically and mentally, is from a healthy family. And so for this reason, today's class and Thursday's class, I'm going to be talking about how to have a successful marriage. I'm going to be talking about you and your husband, because if we're talking about tarbiyah and having role models, I mean, your children are going to look up to you and your husband. So that means you have to be more aware, and you have to make sure that you and your husband are the right role models. And here I'm going to give you guys a lot of advice. It's marital advice that has to do with the relationship between husband and wife. And so that this advice will be truthful and there is amana in it, because I believe that knowledge is a trust and there's amana, I really would like to tell you that I went through so many books and I went through so many videos to try to come up with the most beautiful and important and beneficial advice for us as wives and husbands. And subhanAllah, I came across a video for this Muslim lady. Her name is Hina Khan Mukhtar. I don't know if any of you guys ever heard of her, but mashallah, she has a lot of experience in parenting, in education, and raising children. And what she did was, she has a video on the YouTube, and we're going to take only half of it today, by the way. Okay, I'm going to give you her advice, and I'm also going to be giving you, you know, within her words, I'm also going to be giving you my advice also. But she has a very nice video, which I'm going to be sharing also with you guys, inshallah, on the Canvas LMS management system. All right. So I'm going to be put it. So Sister Maryam, it seems like you know her, right? So mashallah, she has this video. It says 30 years worth of marital advice. So she's been married for 30 years, and she did a lecture, and she gave advice to both husbands and wives about very important marital information that both the husband and the wife need. So today I thought that the best thing for me to do is to share that advice, because I really do believe that a successful marriage, inshallah, will produce successful children. So this is the place where the children are going to be, you know, raised. If the husband and wife do not have the morals, if they're not good examples, all of this is going to affect their children. And here, just like when I told you guys about the tarbiyah mindset, and now you feel like you're more set and you've got goals and you know what you're doing. Well, here also, I want you guys to have a check sheet, and I want you guys to pay attention. Today, I probably might tackle about 12 of these, the advice that she was talking about. And the rest, we're going to take it, inshallah, on Thursday. But everything you learn, the most important thing about what you learn is to practice, sisters. When you practice what you learn, first of all, you get the ajr. And number two, you will never forget it because it becomes a practice of your what? Of your life. So for this reason, inshallah, I'm not going to go into asking you guys about everything because it's really not my business to ask about your personal life and what you have of these things and what you don't have. But like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, بَلِ الْإِنسَانُ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ بَصِيرًا, which means that every nafs, every person knows more about themselves and knows what they're doing. So for this reason, every single one of us should take ourselves accountable of all of the advice we're going to be talking about. If you guys follow this advice, I believe that inshallah, you guys will be really good moms. And inshallah, this will help you guys to raise good Muslim children. Okay? So let's start off with this advice. And I'm very sorry about the technical problems that I'm having today. I don't know what I pressed on. And I guess that's what's causing all these problems. Okay, let's start off. All right. Now, what makes a marriage successful? All right. Before I start talking about what makes a marriage successful, I want to talk about two main things. Okay. And I want you guys to keep them in mind because they're very important things. Okay, what's the first thing? A lot of you guys might be like, well, you know, from the beginning of what you're talking about, I don't feel that you are talking to me. Why? Because Dr. Muna, I'm divorced, for instance. So are you trying to tell me that if I am not married right now, if I don't have a husband, that my children are not going to be good Muslims? And that's a very important question. And I remember some of the sisters asking me, are you going to be talking about, you know, a woman raising her children by herself, separate parenting? You guys, I want to tell you guys something. Just like there is a successful marriage, there's also something called a successful divorce. You guys might be like surprised about that. But no, there is a successful divorce, which means that if the husband and wife just do not meet with each other, things are not going right with them, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it permissible to do something called divorce, which is talaq. And if we do the talaq or the divorce the Islamic way, it will be a successful divorce. And for this reason, it's not going to affect the children that great. True, it's going to be kind of hard for each parent to run their lives, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to have any good children. What are the rules we have to abide by? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah al-Baqarah, ayah 214, what did he say? He said, فَإِمْسَاكُمْ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ تَسْرِيحٌ بِإِحْسَانٍ. The ayah is right in front of you guys. What does that mean? That the parties, the two parties, the husband and the wife, if they cannot live with each other and they decided that things have to be over, what did Allah say? He said, after that, the parties should either hold together, either they choose to stay together on equitable terms, you know, and they agree and they and everything's fine between them, or separate with kindness. So if you guys want to separate, the separation should be with kindness, meaning, okay, you're no longer my husband, and I'm no longer your wife. But that doesn't mean that we don't respect each other. That doesn't mean that you cannot come and see your children because they're your children just like they're mine. So if they separate with kindness and respect, I believe that inshallah, they will have, inshallah, successful children. So true, sometimes there is no marriage and there's a divorce. But here I want to say again, that if they separate with kindness, inshallah, the children will be living in a good environment as long as they are mature and they know how to deal with it. Okay, they don't want to try to harm the children, because many people, the way they want to harm their ex-wife or ex-husband is through the children, and that's haram. That is not any kind of deen or religion or any morals or akhlaq. So we have to pay attention to that. So I just wanted to make that notice. That's number one. Number two, okay, let's say they are married. Okay, if they're married, well, let me say another thing as for divorce, by the way. It doesn't mean that if you got divorced, it's the end of your life. I mean, some people they can remarry and they can have a beautiful marriage. So for this reason, we have to understand that maybe it didn't work out with one person, but it might work out with somebody else. Okay, now let's go back to marriage, sisters. Today, we're going to be talking about important marital advice for husband and wife. But before we talk about this advice, and we're going to number them and talk about them, but before we talk about them, I have a very important notice to make. And that is, we are talking about a healthy marriage, okay? Because only a healthy marriage can take this advice. But if you have an unhealthy marriage, and they're trying to take this advice, it's not going to work. What do I mean by a healthy marriage? We have to keep in mind the following things. We've got 4 things for a healthy marriage, okay? First of all, both of the spouses have to fear God. They have to have taqwa. So they have to have the what? Have to have the deen. And here I'm not going to go through the whole selection of the marriage and choosing your spouse, but I can say something here that's very important. I mean, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he talked to the women, he said, إِذَا جَاءَكُم مَّن تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ وَخُلُقَهُ. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for the woman, he mentioned the morals and the deen. And as for the man, he mentioned for him, when he's going to choose his wife, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the deen, and he mentioned the beauty, and he mentioned the lineage. And he mentioned many things, but he said at the end, فَاظْفَرْ بِذَاتِ الدِّينِ تَرِبَتْ يَدَاكَ. So I want you guys to understand something. While choosing your spouse, one of the most important things, and here I don't want to say it's the only thing, but it's a very important thing to choose a person that has what? Has deen. And here I want to remind you guys of something that the Muslim scholar al-Khwarizmi said. And al-Khwarizmi, he was a mathematician, and he was also an Islamic scholar. And he's behind algebra, okay? So one day he wanted to talk about morals in a mathematical way. So he said, if I was to give a person who had morals, who had deen, a person who has morals and deen, if I gave them 1, that means he's 1, okay? So we're going to give something called deen 1. Now, after that, anything a person has, we're going to add them zeros. So if you've got beauty, you're handsome. So now you're a 10 because I added a 0. If you're from a good family, that's another 0. So you've got what? What are you going to be? You're going to be 100. So if you've got money, that's another 0. So you're going to be 1,000. Everything you have, we're going to add a 0 to it. So the more zeros you have, mashallah, there's a difference between 10 and 1,000,000. But the most important thing is, if you don't have that deen and those morals, then the 1 goes. And if the 1 goes, you're going to be left with what? Zeros. And zeros are worth nothing if you have nothing in front of them. So here it's very important to choose your spouse to be God-fearing, to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because marriage is supposed to be for the sake of Allah, and it's a form of ibadah. So how can it be for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you're not looking for a spouse that's God-fearing? Number 2, that person you're going to be marrying should not be physically or emotionally abusive. I mean, these are very important things to look for in a man, okay? Because, you know, like Allah said in the Quran, إِنَّ خَيْرَ مَنِ اسْتَأْجَرْتَ الْقَوِيُّ الْأَمِينَ. Like when a woman's looking for a man, she's looking for a strong man and a person that's trustworthy. So a person that's going to physically or emotionally abuse his wife, or the opposite, that person doesn't have the amana. I mean, you guys, just like we said, your children are a trust and they are an amana, also your husband and wife is a trust. So you're not supposed to physically or emotionally abuse one another. if that's there, then this is not a healthy marriage. And you guys are not going to benefit from the advice that I'm going to be talking about. Number three, before you get married, in order to have a healthy marriage, all of you guys, the partners, both partners, have to know their rights and their what? Their obligations. So if you don't know your rights and obligations, how is that going to be a healthy marriage? And that's why I believe that every human being, every man or woman that chooses to get married, they have to take the A to Z, information that they need to know their rights and their what? And their obligations. So that's a very important thing that you have to understand, because you are signing a very important contract. So before you sign that contract, I mean, you guys know that when you want to rent a car, or you want to rent, for instance, a house or an apartment, before you sign the contract, or you want to go to work, before you sign any contract, you're like, wait, I have to read the details. I have to read the information. I have to read what my rights and obligations are. You do all the reading and you understand before you sign that contract. But the sad thing is, there's so many people out there that get married so fast, and they sign the contract without them understanding how sacred and important this contract is. So you must know your rights and obligations. Otherwise, it's not a healthy marriage. And number four, last but not least, in order for it to be a healthy marriage, we're not talking about people that have addictions or personal disorders or mental struggles, because of course, this is not going to be a healthy marriage. It's going to be a big challenge, okay? So it's not easy for a spouse to have mental disorders. That doesn't mean that a person that has mental disorders cannot get married. I mean, I really do think that everybody, if you deal with them in a certain way, you understand what they're, yeah. If you understand, let me just,
Good friend. It does actually. It does.
could you please, sisters, could you please mute yourselves? Just 1 second, okay. So I'm not trying to say anything about somebody that has a mental disorder, because actually, you guys, just having depression is a disorder, and many people can go through depression. But that's not what I'm talking about. Like, sometimes some people have big mental disorders that makes it really hard for the other spouse to, like, to be with them and to deal with them. So for this reason, it's not an ideal marriage. It could happen, but of course, it's going to be kind of unhealthy, and it's not going to be really easy, because many of the advice that I'm going to be talking about, they might or might not be able to take into consideration. So I want you guys to remember, before I start with all this advice, when we talk about a healthy marriage, we're talking about these four things: having taqwa, fearing Allah, not being abusive physically or emotionally, knowing your rights and your obligations, and not having any kinds of addictions. For instance, they're on drugs, or they have any kind of personal or mental disorders. Okay, if you guys understand all that, then let us start with the first number one advice for both husband and wife. Okay, what is the first advice you could tell a person? Make Allah your concern, and make Allah your what? Your priority. And I told you guys this from the beginning of the class. I told you guys, marriage is a form of worship. It is a form of ibadah. When you get married, you are worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even you choosing your spouse, we said the first thing you're going to choose in your spouse is to be God-fearing and to have taqwa. Believe me, sisters, when you choose somebody because of their akhlaq, their morals, and because of their deen, this puts barakah in your what? In your marriage. And like Sister Hina, she said, like, when they teach you when they're young, the grandmothers and the parents and so on, she said, I want you guys to look to marriage as a what? As a pyramid. And the husband and the wife, they're at the bottom of this pyramid together, okay? And both of them are looking up, and they both want to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Both of them are striving to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they put their priority in life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he said, as they're looking up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and trying to please him, the more they go up to the period and the pyramid, I'm sorry, the more they go up this pyramid, the more they seek Allah's pleasure, the closer they become. Because if you guys notice, the bottom of the pyramid, the husband and the wife might be far away, but as they strive throughout their relationship to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you guys know that the more you ascend up to this pyramid, it becomes what? It becomes pointier, and it becomes what? Closer. So as you are pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you are going up to this pyramid, what's happening? You're getting two things out of this relationship. First of all, you pleased Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And second of all, you guys are getting closer to each other. And here I want to say something very important, because a lot of people keep asking about, will we still love each other? Does love grow in marriage? Yes, it does, if it's for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How in the world can two people who loved for the sake of Allah fight over the stupidest things? You know, they can't, because they pray together, they supplicate together, they want to build a Muslim family together, they read tafsir together, they pray qiyam layl together. So how can you do all of these things together for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then get into a stupid fight? I'm not saying you're not going to have any conflicts, but you are going to get into fights, but it'll get over really fast, because when you guys come back to your senses, you're going to say, it's not worth it. Come on, forget about it. I don't know how we got into such a stupid argument over something that is not really important. So you do need a spouse that's going to help you and drag you to Jannah, because you guys know that we are human beings, and many times we get discouraged. Many times we want to give up because the challenges of being a wife or being a husband, or, you know, the demands in these days, trying to do parenting. We've got so many hardships out there. So you're going to get discouraged somehow. And sometimes you're going to want to give up. And sometimes you're going to feel lazy and you're like, I don't want to get up and pray Salat al-Fajr. And your spouse says, come on, get up. What are you doing? We can do it together. If you're not going to get up and pray Salat al-Fajr, I'm going to drag you. I'm going to take you to the Jannah with me. I don't want to go to the Jannah by myself. So for this reason, make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala your concern. And when you make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala your concern, then Allah comes before everything. And here, you know, a lot of arguments that can come up, they won't come up because many times husbands and wives, they have arguments over things that have to do with the deen. So you're like, come on, didn't we get married for the sake of Allah? Don't you know that getting that loan is haram? That's interest. That's riba. Didn't we have our children for the sake of Allah? Well, don't you know that teaching your child this will make him a bad person in the future? So many times when you disagree, there's something for you guys to, you know, to make you guys go back and understand each other, because you guys are both looking to the Quran and the Sunnah. So you're like, wait a minute, me and you disagreed and we had an argument. So what is the way to get rid of this argument? Let's go back to the Quran. Let's go back to the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and see what the Quran and Sunnah say. Do you agree? Yes, I do. And it's over. So you've got some kind of interest, something in common that you guys both want to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in this way, you know what your priority is. So Allah comes first. And after that comes your spouse and your parents and your children, and then the Muslim scholars, and then your neighbors, and then the greater community. So when you make Allah your concern, you're learning to prioritize. And prioritizing is a very important thing in marriage, sisters. Why? Let me tell you why. Because a lot of people, most of the problems they have is because they don't know how to prioritize. They don't know what comes first. And when you don't prioritize and you don't understand that, you know, Allah comes first and then your family and so on, the barakah starts to leave the marriage, you know. And sometimes you'll find yourself as a Muslim woman spending more time with your friends than you do with your husband. Or sometimes he'll find himself spending more time with the community more than he does with his children, because you don't have something called prioritizing. You didn't prioritize. And that's a very big problem. You have to know your circles of concern. You have to know your priorities. And together, you guys must come together for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'm going to go back to the top of the pyramid. Your first priority is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I want you guys to picture two happy, healthy people, mentally healthy people that always supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like for instance, if they made their priority to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then what are they going to do? If they go through hard times, they're going to be like, oh, wait a minute. Isn't there a salah called Salat al-Haja, which means when you're going through a hard, thing in life, and you're making a big major decision, and you want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you. So why don't we just go pray Salat al-Haja and ask Allah to help us to get rid of our loans, to ask Allah to help us to raise our children, So the first thing that comes in mind, let's do it together. Let's pray Qiyam al-Layl. Let's pray Salat al-Haja. Let's supplicate. Let's make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you guys all know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in his hands is success. So you guys understand that what you're going through is not because you are successful. Allah's the one who gives us success. And here I want to make a very important point, sisters. I did tell you guys that tarbiyah is knowledge. It is ilm. And a lot of it comes through fitrah. A lot of it comes through nature. But most of tarbiyah and raising children, you have to learn it. You have to work on yourself. You have to do your job. You have to get the mindset. You have to take the marital advice. You have to get your parenting education. Okay, do that. But let me tell you something. Don't be disappointed if one day, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this doesn't happen to any of you guys, but don't be disappointed if one day your children didn't turn out the way you wanted. Because we have to understand something. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us to do our job, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say what the result and the outcome is. Doing our job is in our hands, but the outcome is in Allah's hands. So for this reason, you might notice that sometimes it could be a trial, that you did all you could to have a nice Muslim family, to teach your child, but your child wasn't guided. Your child chose the wrong path. Here I say, you should make dua for the child, try your best to be their friend, try to be with them, okay? But at the same time, we have to understand that success is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for this reason, we should always make our priority Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
You're not done. Oh, there's literally one. Alex, let me wipe your hair.
Anything that happens in our life, we have to be there together and with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're not always going to be like, okay, you're the only one in my life, so I can only get through it with you. No, we can get through together, but at the end, with the will of Allah, with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for this reason, when we want Allah's help, pray Salat al-Haja. If we're trying to make a major decision in our life, pray Salat al-Istikhara. And Salat al-Istikhara is for everything you do in life, you guys. Yes. Yes, Sister Zabiba, the recording will be posted, inshallah. But only these 2 weeks, okay? Because after that, only the people that are registered can have access to it. So here I want to say something. Salat al-Istikhara, a lot of people think Salat al-Istikhara is only for marriage. No, it's not only for marriage. I mean, I might want to buy a refrigerator. I want to buy this house, or I want to rent this apartment. I want to move to this state, I want to go out to this place. Make istikhara. You never know. Allah always knows what's better for you. So together you guys are praying Salat al-Haja. Together you guys are praying Salat al-Istikhara. So this makes you guys stronger together, because no relationship is going to be strong if Allah is not a part of it. And you guys have to remember that. As strong as you might be physically, psychologically, mentally, you are not strong if you don't have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on your side. So for this reason, one of the most important things I would like to tell my sisters in terms of, parenting and being a good Muslim wife, the most important thing I want to talk about right now is prioritizing and being with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At the end of this point, I just want to say something very important. As long as your marriage is for the sake of Allah and everything you're doing is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that means you are trying to please Allah. You're not coming to your spouse and saying, well, listen, look what I did for you. Why aren't you doing this for me? And this is a big problem. I mean, what is your intention? Aren't you trying to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or you're just trying to please your spouse? So if you're doing it for Allah and you're making that intention for Allah, you don't need to come at the end of the day and say, I did this and that for you. We're not trying to keep a score. Because when you try to keep a score, it's going to make the marriage what? Bitter. Because it's like, hey, I'm 1-0. See what I did for you today? You did nothing for me. So I'm 1, you're 0. The next day her husband is like, okay, well, today I did this for you. So now we're even Steven. Okay? No, this causes bitterness and resentment in the marriage. In the end, we're doing it to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we always have to keep Allah's pleasure and his approval always on the right track. And we always have to remember that thing. And here, if you guys notice, I put you guys pictures of people that are like middle age. And here under, we've got people that are even older. Because like I said, marriage and love, it doesn't just stay when you're in the first few years of your life, in your marriage life. It goes on because it's love for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to understand that this love, inshallah, is going to go on throughout your life and it's going to grow. Why is it going to grow? Because every day of your life, your love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grows. And the more your love for Allah grows, the love for your spouse, inshallah, is also going to grow. So for this reason, I believe that the more your marriage life goes on, the more beautiful it becomes, inshallah, if it is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So please, sisters, remember the first parental advice or the first marriage advice or marital advice that we have to make our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala closer and choose our spouse for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here I put you guys the dua for Salat al-Haja and also the dua for Salat al-Istikhara for reference if you guys would like to go back to it. Okay? Now, number 2, and this is really, really important. Okay? So first of all, we chose Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as our priority. We loved for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here comes one of the most important things. Because when we're talking about love and affection, we have to understand that every day of our life, we have to work on increasing the love and affection between our husband and wife. Because the more the husband and the wife, they love each other, the more they're going to be loving to their children. And I just want to go back and say something very important. I mean, you guys have to understand. I mean, I can't tell you guys how important the family has to be happy. Because when you feel that your husband loves you and has affection for you, and when the opposite goes for the husband, he feels the love and affection, here you're able to give it to your children. But if you're not living a stable, emotional life, what's going to happen? How are you going to give it to your children? So husband and wife, please work on yourselves before you work on your children. You guys might tell me, why didn't you tell me this 20 years ago? You're late right now. You're telling me this now. I've got children that are 18. I've got children that are 7. You guys, I want to tell you something. I mean, it's never too late to fix things. I mean, you can fix a lot of things. You know, maybe there were things that weren't there. They weren't present when you first got married, but you can work on them. You guys, the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what were they like in the years of ignorance? What were they like in the Jahiliyyah? What were they like before they became Muslims? They had a lot of problems, but Islam changed them. So I want you guys to realize that maybe you were ignorant and you didn't have this information, but that doesn't mean that you're going to go on with your life without it because you've been married for 20 years or 15 years. It's never too late to start. You and your spouse should sit together and say, listen, we've got to work on ourselves more. We've got to be more aware of what we're saying, the way we are treating each other in front of our children. So Here, there are a lot of things to work on. And so ask Allah. Ramadan is the doors of Ramadan, you know, they're coming close. So for this reason, the month of Ramadan, the barakah of Ramadan, make dua and supplication to Allah to help you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to be better husbands and wives in order for us to be able to raise our Muslim children. So here you have to work every day to make your love and affection for your husband and his love and affection for you to grow every day. And sometimes, sisters, it's the smallest things, the smallest details. You know, even the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to drink from the same place, from the same spot that sister al-Mu'mineen Aisha radiyallahu anha drank from. It's like showing his respect and his love. He's putting his lips on the same place where she drank from. So this is like a small, holding your spouse's hands, looking into his eyes. Those gestures that you think are not important, no, they will strengthen the marriage. When he's speaking, give him all your attention, you know? So I can't tell you how much these small gestures, they make a difference, and how neglecting them as time goes by, the love and the affection starts to fade away. You guys have to understand something very important. Do you guys know that the belief in La ilaha illallah, picture this, your belief in La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, the shahadatan, they can fade away and they can become stronger. So if your love for Allah and your belief in Allah could fade away, and you have to renew it with worship and with dhikr and reading the Quran and so on. So what do you guys think about the relationship between you and your husband? If your relationship with Allah could fade away, what can we say about the relationship with your husband? So for this reason, you must be aware that every day your love and affection for your husband grows, and his love and affection grows for you. But here, when we're talking about love and affection, we have to understand something very important, that love is a language, and there are 5 languages of love. You know, love is not just one language. There are many languages of love. And like Sister Hina said, she said there are a lot of books out there that talk about the languages of love. Like, for instance, we've got the 5 love languages, how to express heartfelt commitment to your mate. That's a book. And the author is Gary Chapman. He talked about the 5 languages of love. But here we're going to summarize these 5 languages, because we're going to talk about something very important between husband and wife. We have to understand each other's love language. See, each one of us has a different love language. Each person expresses their love in a different language. And the 5 love languages are, number 1, by providing service. Like some people, the way they express their love is by doing nice things for you, or providing any kind of service. Like I'm cooking, I'm doing the house chores, for instance, the husband is bringing the grocery, any kind of service. That's one of the ways of showing your love and affection. Number 2, some people, they show their love and affection by giving you their time. Like they'll leave everything and just come and sit with you because they feel that you're important in their life. That's another language of love. Number 3, and I think most women are like this. I think most of us women are like number 3, because after, in a few more minutes, I'm going to ask you guys, what's your love language? But I think most of us women, we like the verbal praise and the affirmation. You know, we like to hear it. We like to say, I love you, and we like to hear it back. We like to hear those nice words, those soft, tender words, because we as women are very affectionate and we're very emotional. That's the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us, because we are the ones mainly to give that affection to our children. Some people, they like giving the physical affection, like holding hands, hugging, like they need that hug, they need that kiss. So they want the physical affection, okay? And some people, number 5, the 5th language of love is by giving gifts. And you guys know the Prophet ﷺ said, tahadu tahabbu, like by giving gifts, you have affection and you like each other. So these are the 5 languages of what? Of love. Okay, what happens between the husband and the wife? The husband and the wife don't necessarily have to have the same language of love. So like if there's a woman, she likes it verbally and her husband likes to give it in terms of service, she might think, okay, well, he didn't tell me this and that, so I feel that my husband doesn't love me. No, he does love you, but he has a different way of expressing his love. So when you guys understand what the 5 languages of love are, you're not going to be sitting there saying, well, my husband doesn't love me. Why didn't he do this like her husband did for her? And don't compare. Never compare 2 people, okay? So for this reason, if you understand the 5 ways of showing your love and expressing your love to each other, this will help you to understand your husband more. So let's give an example here, okay?
Hi.
Like love is a language, and we said that there are 5 languages of love. So what happens is sometimes your husband is expressing his love for you, but you didn't understand the language. It's exactly like somebody speaking Arabic and the other person is speaking English, and I don't understand Arabic and he doesn't understand English, okay? But we're saying very nice words, but we don't believe that, you know, we're mingling and mixing with each other. The problem is not that what you're saying, it's you're not understanding each other's language. So each person has their way of expressing their what? Their love for each other, their affection, okay? And this causes a lot of problems between the husband and the wife many times. So we have to pay attention to that. Let's give an example. For example, let's say there's this girl, the wife, her name is Fatma. And Fatma loves the verbal affirmation. She loves to hear her husband say, I appreciate you, I love you. Oh, look at that. You're like, for instance, she goes and fixes her hair. She goes to the salon. She wants to hear it from her husband. Oh, you look beautiful today. Or when she makes the food, she cooks the food. She wants to hear from her husband, your food tastes awesome. It's delicious. Okay.
Oh.
That's the way many women are. They like the verbal love. Okay. So she's waiting for him to say, thank you. She's waiting for him to say, you look nice. On the opposite, on the contrary, let's say her husband, he's the type of person that shows his love by service. For instance, he would never come home with an empty gas tank in the car because he's feeling for his wife. He's like, oh, tomorrow my wife is going to be going to work and I have to make sure that, you know, everything is there. The gas is in the tank. So he's trying to provide all the what? The service. I want you guys to picture one day you borrowed your husband's car and you went out, and when you came back, the gas tank was empty. Now, when your husband sees the gas tank empty, how is he going to look to you? He's going to look to you in a way that she doesn't love me. She's inconsiderate. She overlooked the fact that she was leaving the gas empty because he really cares. His love is by service. He feels that when you give him that service and you do things for him, that's the way you what? You show the love. So for this reason, if you are talking, 2 people are talking to each other and each person has the language, what do you guys think is the what? Is the solution? Should I say, well, listen, this is my way of showing my love. And he's going to say, well, this is my way of showing my love. And that's it. What do you guys think? Like if I was in front of a person that talks Chinese and I do not know any Chinese, and I really want to have a conversation with that person, you know, and I want to show respect for that person, what would I go and do? I'd be like, oh, wait a minute, wait, just 1 second. And I'd go to Google Translate, or I'd go to some kind of application and I'd be like, okay, you can speak Chinese, go ahead, say it. And then I would get the translation and I would show that person that I respect and love that person, right? So what did I do? I didn't, you know, surrender. I got out of my comfort zone. You know, a lot of people, they just want to stay in their comfort zones and say, I don't care. That's the way I am. I mean, he's not going to hear me. He's not going to have me do services for him. And he's going to say, well, she's not going to hear a nice word from me because I don't know how to do that. I'm not an affectionate person. No. What is the solution? The solution is that everybody has to understand what is the love language of each other person, and they must get out of their comfort zone and to try to make an effort to give the love to the spouse the way they would like it, you know? So for this reason, what am I gonna do? I have to be aware of giving the service to my husband. Like, he gets mad if I bring the, you know, the cart with an empty gas tank. No, I have to be responsible and be like, no, my husband's not gonna like that. He's gonna feel that I wasn't considerate of him. And the same thing with the husband. You know, I just went to the salon. I just wore something new. I mean, I'm waiting for your compliments. Say something when you eat. How was the food? It's okay. Come on, say something nice. You have to learn. Didn't I tell you guys many things we can learn them? So how are you going to learn something if you don't have the information? That's why we're trying to learn the information so that we can what? We can practice it. So this is a very important thing, that each person has to have the love and affection for the other, and we have to know each other's love language. We have to get out of our comfort zone and give the love to the spouse as much as we can. The more you understand your spouse, the more you guys can mix and mingle and understand each other's language. And here I want to say something. You know, a lot of this stuff should have been understood before the marriage. You guys know, when you get like in an engagement, a lot of people, instead of making, wise, using the engagement wisely, they use it in a very unwise manner. What do I mean by that? Like, a lot of people in their engagement, it's like more of the bodies getting closer together. You know, they just want that physical affection, but they're not working on getting to know the opposite person, their character. So you should be a wise person during that engagement, whether it's a month or a week or a year, whatever. You should be able to start to understand the language of your spouse. That will help you a lot, you know, when you get married. That will prepare you for the marriage life. So for this reason, we have to give each other the love and the what? The love and affection, and understand the love language of each other. Okay? Another thing here, when it has to do with the love language, we have to understand something about women, okay? And this is something that men have to understand. And here we're going to talk about something also that women have to understand. Women need, this is something, emotionally, they need an intimate conversation. I mean, women like their husbands to talk to them, because like I said, most women, they like the verbal affirmation. Like, they like to hear it verbally. They like their husbands to sit and talk to them. And, you know, I've heard a lot about many problems that happen with women, and I'm not trying to make an excuse for them. It's not an excuse, but many times their husbands neglect them. They don't sit with them. They don't give them any time. So what happens to her? She starts trying to find love from outside the house, because she doesn't feel that her husband is giving her that love. I'm not trying to make an excuse for her. This, of course, is haram. It's betrayal. It's haram. But what I'm trying to say is the man has to be careful. Women like to hear nice words. And here they said something very beautiful. They said, men fall in love with their eyes, and women fall in love with their ears. I'd like to hear your point of view on that. What did you guys understand from this, from this statement? Men fall in love with their eyes, and women fall in love with their ears. Who would like to say something about this? Would anybody like to make give their point of view? What does it mean? Who can explain what it means? What does this statement mean? You guys didn't understand it? What do men usually like to see in a woman? Yes, Sister Fariza.
Assalamualaikum, Sheikha. I would like
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
to comment that by the nature, men are more like a beauty. So the woman has to beautify herself for his husband.
Right.
Or her husband. And by nature, woman likes some more kind words and something. So her husband also has to know that. So speak kindly, maybe.
Yes. Thank you, Sister Fariza. You said it. So the men like their love is in their eyes. They like to see the woman beautify herself, okay? But the woman, her love is in the ears. She likes to hear the nice words. So this is something very important. And that's why you notice that women, they just like to talk and they like to hear the basic details. And like many times her husband would come home and he'd be telling her a story or something. She's like, wait a minute, you're getting too much. You're talking briefly. Go into details. Where did you go? Yeah, who did you meet? What happened? She likes to hold a conversation with her what? With her husband. So give her that kind of what? Conversation. Give her her needs. This is something very important. Your wife is a mother and she's going to give the affection and love emotionally to the children more than you are. So for this reason, give her the emotion and the affection, so she can give it to her children. So for this reason, in order for that love to grow, and this is something that a lot of people, they neglect when they get married, and they just get into their houses and their children and their marriage life and their responsibilities, and they forget about all of this stuff. What is it? You have to have some kind of important time that you guys,
Good night.
and it's like a routine or some kind of like tradition that you have to follow up with. For instance, it could be a Sunday morning brunch. For instance, on Sundays, you and her don't go to work. Yalla, tomorrow we're going to sit together and we're going to have breakfast together. Or we're going to go and have like some kind of dinner tea. Or we're going to go on a walk with each other. Or for instance, you guys like to read together, read a book together. And also, it's not wrong to have some kind of like a mini date. Go out together every week, like every 7 days. You go out with each other. It doesn't have to be expensive. You just go out with each other, even if it means you're going out on a what? On a walk. This is something that makes the love and affection to what? To grow. I mean, there has to be something to look forward to. That routine that happens every week. It's like, okay, you go to work, you're a housewife, and the routine keeps coming and this and that. You have to look forward to something with your husband only. I mean, okay, you give your children, you give your parents, you give the community, but there has to be something special between the husband and wife, and they must guard it together. And it has to be something that, like, if you miss it, it's something that's taken away. Like picture a child, you're taking away the iPad from them, or that 1 hour for them to play. If it's taken away from them, they feel like something's missing in their life. And here, this is supposed to be something very important for the husband and wife, that they go out with each other, they have something special with each other. And this has to go on, not just in the first year of marriage, not in the second year of marriage, not until we have children. It has to go on until the end of what? End of life. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was a prophet, and he was he was a qadi, he was a judge, and he was teaching people, and he was a warrior, and he was a soldier, and he was everything. He was a leader. And with that, he always gave time to his what? To his children and to his wives. So for this reason, the love and affection have to grow. We have to understand each other's love language, and we have to understand that women, they like to be talked to. And we have to understand, for this love in marriage to grow, that we have to have some kind of special event to look forward to every week, so that that love can grow. Okay. Another thing, number 3, this is a very important thing between wives and husbands, because look at this. All of these things we're talking about, if you're not going to have them, how are you going to give it to your children? The next thing is the passion and the interests. Okay, it doesn't mean that you and your husband have to have the same interests. No, you might have different interests. Like he's interested in something and you're not interested in it. But having different interests, that's okay. It's not a problem. But even if we have different interests, we must be cheerleaders for each other. What do I mean by cheerleaders? Each one of us, encouraging the other to have this passion, to have this interest. So for this reason, you might find that some wives, they have no interest in soccer. They have no interest in football. And many times you will notice that your husband and your male children like to watch a soccer game, or they like to watch a football game. Here, you're not supposed to make fun of that. You're not supposed to be saying, oh, I don't know how you guys love soccer. It's so dumb. They're just going after a ball. Don't put down the interests of your husband. It doesn't mean you have to like it, but you have to try to respect it. And many times you might, even if you're not interested, just be like, oh, well, what do you say I come and, attend a soccer game with you? To show him that you have, you respect his interests and his what? His passion. So this is very important. Do you guys remember when I talked about tarbiyah? I said that you have to find your children's skills, right? And when you find your children's skills, you have to try to encourage them. Like your child might like to draw and you don't like to draw, but because you want to help your child, you might sit and draw with him. So you have to learn that with your spouse, because when you neglect his passion and interests, it's like you're saying, I really don't care about you, So you have to respect his hobbies, never put it down. And it's not wrong. Like if he likes to play soccer, go in the backyard and play with him, play with the family. Try to accompany them in their interests. And when he finds that you are, respecting his interest, he will respect yours. You guys know that a lot of women out there, they like to, for instance, their kitchens, they like to have them organized, and they like to go to places and buy organizers and this and that. So when he sees you respecting his interest, he'll be like, well, you know what? I went to this store and I bought you this organizer because I know you love to organize things in the house. What does that do, you guys? It makes the bonds of love stronger. So you have to, realize your husband's interests and encourage him. Never put him down on these things, okay? And like they say, for some spouses, actions speak louder than words. Like sometimes when you give him that respect and interest in his passion, for him, that's more, that's more loving and caring than you saying, I love you. So sometimes actions are stronger than words are. So please pay attention to your spouse's passion and interests. And it's something that's like both sides. You pay attention to his passions and interests. And I'm sure if you do that, he will also respect your passion and your interests. So look at this kind of mature, a relationship between a husband and a wife. Okay, number 4, and this is very, very, very important. And put a big line under very. And you don't understand how important it is, especially for your husband. And that is fulfilling the sexual needs of the husband. That's a very important thing. And I don't think any woman out there has, an excuse for that. Why? Because the times when a woman is really tired, Islam forbid the husband to approach his wife for sexual intercourse. And those times are when she's got her PMS, she's got her menstrual cycle, when she's nafas after she gives childbirth, postpartum bleeding, and during Ramadan, like when you're fasting. So when you're fasting, it's haram to have a sexual relationship. So I want to ask you guys something, sisters. I mean, if you don't have PMS and it's not, for instance, nafas, it's not the postpartum bleeding after you gave childbirth, and you're not fasting, what kind of excuse could you have? Unless you're sick, for instance, like you've got a big sick, you're sick, or there's some kind of physical thing that you have. I don't think your husband's going to have any problem with that, as long as he feels that when you are in your health, you're doing your job, okay? Because as I said again, your husband is supposed to be God-fearing. And I'm sure that a God-fearing husband would accept, and he would be able to understand that, for instance, you're sick right now, okay? But other than that, why not give your husband what he needs? And the fulfilling the sexual needs is not just for the husband, it's also for the what? For the wife. And here I want to say, subhanallah, Islam taught us everything. And of course we have hayat, and we we're modest, and but at the same time, Islam showed everything that has to be between the husband and the wife. Why? Because it's a great establishment. It's a great foundation for parenting. So this household has to be strong. And Islam looked to every little thing, every little detail to make sure that that love and that affection and that stability and that tranquility and peace is in the house. So don't say this is not important. It's probably not important for you, but it is for him. So for this reason, and here I just want to, go back to something that I was talking about the last class. Remember when I told you guys that many women, they don't differentiate between caretaking and tarbiyah? And here I want to say something, there are a lot of things out there that have to do with tarbiyah that a lot of people can help you with, okay? So that you're not exhausted at the end of the day, right? So what happens is a lot of women, they spend too much time in cleaning the house, doing house chores, doing the, cooking and so on. What happens at the end of the day? She's dead. And, she doesn't have any energy for her husband. So for this reason, we have to do what, sisters? It goes back to time management, managing your time, teaching your children to take a responsibility, making sure that everybody in the house puts everything back in place, because this makes you have more time. And again, like I said, waking up after Salat al-Fajr, your day starting off at Salat al-Fajr and sleeping after Salat al-Isha, because that way you've got more time and you can even take a small nap in the middle of the day. So this is very important. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to wear the hijab outside, but in the house, my sisters, each one has to be a model for her husband. Each one has to make sure that her husband, she fulfills his sexual needs, and also he fulfills the sexual needs of the what? Of the wife. Because if he doesn't get this, this is going to cause a bad temper. It's going to cause a lot of problems. And it's something that's going to make, as time goes by, it's going to make the relationship break apart. Okay? So this is a very important thing that every single one of us has to pay attention. I think women can fall into that same confusion in marriage. We think we're nurturing our marriage. Yes, that's true. So would you like to say something about that again, sister? The sister who wrote the chat right now. Was it Noor?
Oh, yeah, that was me.
Could you explain more of what you meant?
Yeah, I think, similarly to how we think we're doing tarbiyah, but really we're caretaking. That same problem can come up in marriage, where you think, well, I did
Oh,
your laundry and
yeah,
I made dinner, and you're not, it's it's easy when we're so consumed by those. Sometimes those tasks are
yes,
actually can be easier or more comfortable than really putting in the work to work on our communication, to make sure
yeah.
that we're keeping up intimacy, to make sure that we're understanding our spouse's love language. Because you can go through life like almost living in parallel with your spouse, but you're not maintaining that connection. You're just doing the caretaking.
Yeah, Sister Karima is even telling you that's a beautiful point you made, and I really do thank you for that, Noor. You said something very important. She's like, it's not like sometimes we get confused with the caretaking and the tarbiyah with the children, but many times we also get confused with our husbands. We think we're just what? Caretakers. I did the laundry, I did the food for you. I like that you said everything comes down to time management and making sure everyone is helping. Yes, Sister Rahma. And that's, that's the big problem, because a lot of women, why do they refuse giving or fulfilling his sexual needs? Why? Because they're so tired at the end of the day. They're so exhausted, putting all that effort into the children and teaching them and cleaning. And I want to tell you something, many women, I want you guys to just look at how much time you spend in the kitchens. Hours. In the morning, in the afternoon, late at night. Well, you've got a lot of people in the family. Everybody has to pitch in. So for this reason, okay, it's going to be kind of hard to get them ready to take the responsibility, but in the outcome, it will be good for you. It takes time to teach the children to practice taking responsibility. So you have to teach them, like when they get older, come here, I want to show you how you clean your clothes. You've got a laundry bag. Listen, Here, I'm going to show you for once right now. I want you to learn. I'm going to take you to the, you know, to learn how to do your laundry, how you put the whiteys together, how you put the color together. This is what you do. This is how you dry it. I organized your closet. It's easy for you now. And usually the children, I want to tell you guys something, and even the husbands, they do not like to fold their clothes and then going to refold after them. That's going to take a lot of time. So I really do believe that you should invest in hangers, you know. So hanging things is a lot better. That way you teach your children, you can hang your t-shirts, even you can hang your what? Your jeans and this and that. It will be easier for them to find, and it will be easier for them to put away. Okay. So yes, maybe you will try to help them to organize, but after that, everybody has to pitch in. If you don't have a dishwasher, even if you do have a dishwasher, everybody who eats something has to put it, clean it, and put it in the dishwasher. And this way you've got more time for yourself. And then even when you're teaching your children to study, you have to try to teach them to depend on themselves. Like in the beginning, okay, you're teaching them. After that, when they reach second, third grade, they're starting to understand how to study. And then you're just, you know, you're watching them, or they're coming to tell you what they memorized, and you're asking them questions because you got them to help you. So this is very important. And you guys might be surprised that many times the wife will be doing the cooking and the house is clean, but her husband is not satisfied, okay? Because he needs, this is one of his needs. So for this reason, I'm not trying to say get disgusting houses and leave the cleaning. And you're going to be like, well, listen, you can't have everything. Either you get this, you know, I'm going to be sitting there being clean and everything for you, and with the fragrances and the makeup and the hair. So don't ask about the cleaning. I can't do that for you. No, I mean, you take everything, you know, in the middle way. Okay. Don't go to extremes. And even when you are cleaning, I mean, you could be wearing a nice pair of jeans, a nice shirt, and looking nice even while you're cleaning. You get what I'm saying? I mean, you don't have to be wearing a dress or something extraordinary. I mean, of course, while you're cleaning, you're going to be wearing cleaning clothes, but make sure they're clean. They don't smell, that you look nice, even when you're wearing your cleaning clothes. So we have to be aware of that. And when you do that, you teach your daughter in the future how to be a good wife for her husband, because she's used to seeing you taking care of yourself, your hygiene, and all of this. So look at this. I mean, we're doing two things in one. I want you guys to pay attention to this. While you're being a good wife to your husband, while your husband is being a good husband for you, you are pleasing Allah, you're pleasing each other, and you're being good role models for your children. So you're doing like 3 in 1, by the way. Okay. So this is a very important thing that you guys have to keep in mind. Okay. Because it causes big time problems. Okay. Another thing is, let me just, you know, excuse me for all the technical things that happened today. Praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay? And this is a very important thing. I mean, if your marriage was built on the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then both of you guys have to understand something, that there are a lot of people that they got married and their marriage wasn't a success. And subhanAllah, they started off loving each other, but at the end they started hating each other. I want you guys to understand that we must go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, put the love of my husband in my heart. And oh Allah, put his love, you know, of me in his heart. So you're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep that love in us. And you guys all know that the love is in the hands of who? In the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's a very important thing we have to understand. So always seek from Allah to help you. Always make dua. Always make dua. I mean, you guys, I'm sure you guys saw a lot of people that got married and they just loved each other. And I mean, you guys would probably say they're Romeo and Juliet. And people were jealous of them. And then their marriage just broke apart. You know, so for this reason, I want to say something. Always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to preserve that love, for you to keep loving him and for your love to grow every day, and for him to what? To keep loving you. So this is something very important. Always pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep that love, because you never know, that person that you love, that spouse, one day he could go against you and you can't do anything about it. And he's like, listen, I have to tell you something. I don't love you anymore. I have no feelings for you. And in here you're like, you're wordless. You have nothing to say. So for this reason, always pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether it's talking about your children or if it has to do with your spouse. Always say, Ya Allah, keep that love between us. And always stay with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the love is in his hands. And here I want to say something. A lot of people, they sometimes want to please their spouse and, displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So her spouse might be like, okay, I don't want you to wear hijab, or I don't want you to do something that Allah made an obligation for us to do. So she's like, I want to please my husband. Okay, you please your husband. Didn't you know that the love is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So here, what could Allah do to punish you? He could make that husband who you wanted to please on behalf of displeasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he can start to hate you. So always keep Allah as your priority, and always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep that love between you. Keep it as a dua always. And it's not just praying to Allah, doing the things that please Allah together. Read Quran together, contemplate on the Quran, ponder on the Quran, think about what the words of Allah together, pray together. Okay, all of these things make your marriage more barakah in it. Okay, let's go to number 6. Men need to be what? Respected. This is a very important thing. Men like respect. Do you guys know, like how women, they like their husband to talk to them and give them those words and everything? Okay, I'm sure women also like respect, but men love respect and to be admired even more. You guys, you have to understand these marital advices. This will make your household healthier, and it will make the love between you and your spouse what? Stronger. And when the love between you and your spouse is stronger, that's going to affect your children. You're helping your children when you and your husband are having a healthy relationship. Always respect your husband. And you guys know, you have to understand something. Okay, sometimes it could happen that the woman is older than her husband. It could happen. It's no problem. I mean, sister, you guys know al-Mu'mineen Khadija, she was 15 years older than Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it doesn't necessarily mean if the wife is older that it's not going to be a successful marriage. She could be older. Sometimes she could make money more than her husband. Like her paycheck is more than her husband. Sometimes, mashallah, she's the one who makes the major changes in life. She's got a lot of skills to make different changes. But with all of that, be careful. Never let that interfere with you respecting your husband. And especially in front of people. Like, let me give you like a very small example. Like, let's say, for instance, you were going in a taxi cab, okay? And you and your husband are in the car. And let's say your husband didn't have money in his wallet and he's going to pay. Okay, let's say you're going to pay cash, okay? I know in the West, most of you guys pay by like your iPhones and so on and that. But let's say you had to pay cash. I don't think you would come. I mean, a woman that respects her husband, she wouldn't come and open her purse and get the money and give it to the cab driver, and her husband sitting there looking. Okay, we know you have money, but try to make your husband be the one like in front of the people. Make him bigger. Make him look like he's the stronger one. Make him look like the respected person. So even if you had the money, you know what I would do? I wouldn't let anybody see. I would get it out of my purse and silently, without anybody seeing me, give it to my husband without anybody paying attention. Okay? Why? Because you want to have respect for your husband. When you have respect for your husband, especially in front of your parents, in front of people in the community, that's something that's good for you, because people respect your husband. That's good for you. And when people don't respect your husband, you know what that means? They're not going to respect you, and they're not going to respect your children. So for this reason, we have to understand your husband is the Amir. He's the leader of the family. You have to understand that. Whether we like it or not, every group of people has to have a leader. And Allah made the leader of the family the husband. It's called qiwama. He is the leader of the family. So we have to honor him being the guardian, honor him being the leader. And that doesn't mean that if I made my husband be the leader, that I don't share my opinions, that my husband doesn't consult me. No. You guys even know that even in countries, you've got a leader, you've got a president, but of course he's got what? He's got ambassadors, he's got people he goes back to, right? So for this reason, women, they have their opinions, the husband, he consults them, but the man is the leader. And we have to make our husbands feel that he's a leader, despite the age span, despite that I'm educated and he's not, or we're both educated and we're like, okay, I've got a PhD and you do too. So why do you think you're the leader? No, you have to have that respect for your child. And I remember last class, I asked you guys a question. How can you make your children have respect for their father, who probably doesn't show up through the day except for a very short period of time, which we called quality time? How are you going to have your children respect the father if you respect him, right? So respect means more to him than love. Men feel deeply valued when treated with respect and what? And trust, and especially in front of the children, and especially in front of your parents. Because there are a lot of women out there that they start to put their husbands down in front of their brothers. They start to like show off. Oh, I'm in my mom's house, my dad's house, so I can say whatever I want. Believe me, all of this disrespect in the end, it's going to come against you. It's going to make your children disrespect the father. It's going to make your children disrespect you. It's going to make your mom and dad disrespect your husband. And I'm sure you don't want that. So for this reason, of course, and Allah is not going to be pleased with you. So always, sisters, show respect to your husband and understand that your husband is the Amir, or he is the leader of the family, and his word should be heard. And at the same time, that doesn't contradict with you giving your point of view and him consulting you. Okay? And for this reason, there's a beautiful saying, and I really want to hear your point of view about it. They say the husband is the head of the family, but the wife is the neck that turns the head. So the husband is the head of the family, but the wife is the neck that turns the head. What do you guys think about that? I want to hear your point of view. Because a lot of people think that, okay, the husband's the head, that means he's a dictator, he doesn't take my point of view. No, he's the head, but you are the what? The neck. You know, so what do you guys think that means? I'm not going to say what I believe. I want to listen to you guys. Who would like to give their point of view on this saying? Do you guys agree with it or you don't, first of all, and why? Who would like to say something? Sister Rihab?
Yes, I agree with it for most part of like most aspects of life. And for me, what it means is that you let the husband decide, have the final word about something, but you do encourage him to look at the things that you want him to look at, like in a way that that is of course beneficial for everybody, but like in the way that you how do you say in English بتتعامل يعني how you
treat him?
how you huh
يتعامل, you mean treat?
yeah, like
told
how you treat the
Also,
subjects
give
or
it
how you
that.
treat how you
Okay.
treat yeah, so the way that maybe
So
I'm
you're
not
trying to say in
explaining
the
well.
end he makes the decision, but you give him the what? Your point of view, right? Is that what
Yes,
you understood from it?
but not even my point of view. It's more like to where to look at, like instead of let's for example, if we're moving, well, I'm gonna talk about this neighborhood and this neighborhood is better, and I'll give maybe another neighborhood as a contrast, but then
Right.
so in that way we're not looking at in any other place, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it
Well,
would be
let me tell you, sisters, Rihabi. Okay, many times you guys are not going to agree, but in the end, you're going to consult. You're going to consult. But actually, I want to tell you something. Actually, that's not what it means. I think I saw one of the sisters, like I think that's why a lot, like Muna, I saw you said you disagree, but I think it's because you didn't understand actually what they're trying to say. Who did I think understood it? I think it's there's somebody who wrote a chat right now. So Layla's saying it's about compromising. Okay, we will compromise. Okay. Yes, the neck is the one in the power. Thank you, Rosa. She said it. You guys, I want to ask you guys a question. You've got a head, okay? You guys see my head? Can I move my head without my neck? I'm asking you guys. What makes my head move?
The neck.
The neck. So yes, the man, he's the head, but you're the neck. In other words, you guys, you don't understand how much women are powerful. Out of the way you respect him, in the end, he's going to listen to you. Wallah, he is. He's going to listen to you. You've got the power. Let me give you guys an example. In the Quran, do you guys remember Fir'aun? Fir'aun used to say, Ana Rabbukum al-A'la. He used to say, I am what? I am God. And he was a very, hard and mean person. And he came up with an idea, and it was his, it was his law that all the Israelites, the male children, they're going to be killed. Okay? And you guys know that Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he came to his house in the river. And he knows that this baby is an Israelite. So what is he going to do? He's going to kill him. That's his decision. Don't compromise with me. Don't ask me. His wife, okay, so he's the head. His wife was the neck. She was able, out of her intelligence, the way she speaks, okay, and it's not like, oh, you don't come to your husband, please understand me, please don't misunderstand me. Don't come to your husband and say, listen, you're the head, but I'm the neck. This is not something you would say to your husband. It's something that you keep in mind, that yes, he's a head, but without your neck, without you, he's not going to turn right or wrong. He is going to ask you for your what? Your point of view. But you have to be very intelligent. You have to not make him feel that it's my decision, not yours, but the way you respect him and show that his decision is important, but you're giving him your point of view. In the end, believe me, we as women have so much power, and we can affect the man's decision, especially when you admire him, when you look up to him, and when you respect him. He's going to respect you, and he's going to take your decision. Especially like when you were talking about rehab, the neighborhood or the house. And I really do believe that the husband is going to try to make his wife happy with the house, because he knows that she spends most of her time in the house, and he wants to make her a happy person, but don't make him feel that you have to listen to me. It's an intelligent way of you speaking to him and respecting him. So this is what it means, that he's the head, but you are the neck that makes that head turn. So you are able, you are capable. Okay, so don't underestimate your power as women. We can make a big change, and we can make a big effect. So even Asya was able to affect the Pharaoh of Egypt, and he changed his mind, and he kept Musa, right? So this is what it means. Now, after you guys understood the meaning, do you agree with it? Like after you understood it well, do you agree with that now? Did it change your point of view? Who would like to say something?
Yeah, I think I agree with it. Sometimes I can imagine my husband like a head just rolling around if it wasn't for me being the next supporting him. I mean,
Yeah.
I make sure he has healthy meals and socks with no holes in it. I do so much, and sometimes I laugh and say, what would you do without me? Would you even make a dental appointment?
Yeah, but we're gonna try not to say that, because like sometimes what happens if you kind of, I know you didn't mean it, but sometimes as you like put down the man, it kind of makes him lose his self-confidence. And you don't want that, because I really do believe that every woman, the beauty of a man is that he is a man. And the beauty of the woman is that she is a woman, you know? So every woman looks to that her guy as the masculine, strongly built personality and strong body and everything. And he's the person you go back to. So we have to watch actually our words. And okay, maybe without you doing the dentist appointment, he wouldn't be able to, but we try not to show that kind of stuff, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So here I want to go on with the men they have to be what? Respected. Here I want to say something that goes under the respect. Like, don't contradict your husband. He said something in the public and you come and correct him in front of everybody, you know? Okay, you can correct him at home. You get what I'm saying? Because that way you're making his dignity go down. Always, you know, respect him, and especially in front of people, and especially in front of your parents. Because why am I saying parents? Parents and children, because many people tend to disrespect their husbands in front of their parents, or in front of their what? In front of their children. So never put down the father, or never also the husband, never put down the mother in front of the children. Here, I want you guys to look at he's building respect in the children for their mother. Am I correct? Another thing is, let's say, for instance, sorry about the technical problems today. Okay, so please excuse me. Is the picture going away? The slide, did it go?
No,
I'm
it's
asking.
here.
Oh, so you guys see the slides?
Yes.
But it's just going for me. I don't know why. Okay. And the woman, what does she say to her children? She says to her children about her husband, oh, look at your dad. He works so hard to provide for us this and that, and he never complains. Okay. So all of this, you have to make sure to say it. I mean, when you say something like that in front of your children and your husband, he will respect you for that. And also, when your husband says something like this in front of the children, you are going to respect it because you felt the acknowledgement, you felt the gratitude. And when you guys thank each other in front of the children, that's going to teach your children to thank you and to have gratitude and acknowledgement for you. Otherwise, they're going to be like, what did you ever do for me? Because they're listening to the father saying, you never do anything. You're always on your iPhone. What do you do every day? You're just sleeping and this and that. So this is very important, sisters. Watch, be more aware of what you're saying and what you're doing. And here there's something important. A lot of people, you guys know that there's something called ghiba. You know what ghiba is? وَلَا يَغْتَبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا. Backbiting, okay? The weird thing is, a lot of people are like, no, I don't backbite. I don't talk about people. I don't say things that they don't like, but they do it with their spouses. They'll be sitting there talking and making them feel dishonored and telling them things they don't like to hear and this and that. Or sometimes they'll be talking behind their backs. So come on. I mean, the only way you could be talking about your husband if really he oppressed you and you're trying to get your right back, but just going there and talking. And here I want to say something, you guys. Please, please, please. And it happens a lot between women and their parents. So she goes like every week to visit her parents, and she starts talking to her mom and to her dad and complaining about her husband. And she's talking to her brother about her husband and this and that. I mean, what are you going to get out of that? You know, first of all, you're talking about private manners in your house. And number two, that's going to make them not respect him, you know? So keep it private. They're just going to make things worse. So for this reason, you have to watch what you say. Make sure your husband is respected, okay? And like, for instance, let's say he brought you like a small gift. This also goes under respect. Let's say he bought you a small gift. Don't start making fun of it. And you're like, you didn't find anything to buy me except for this. No, don't look at the gift itself. Look at the heart of the gift giver, that he took the time to buy you something, even if it's very small, but it's symbolic, and he's trying to show his what? His love for you. So you have to be very careful about respecting your husband. Another very important thing is social media. This is so important. You guys have to understand something. I mean, there are a lot of women out there, like they've got Facebook, they've got Instagram, they've got TikTok, whatever. And they like to post pictures or put things. It's very important that you respect each other's limits and that you take your husband's, view of what can I post and what I can't post. Are you comfortable with this or you're not comfortable with this? So that's a very important thing about social media. You have to agree with each other. What can you show of your life and what you can't show of your life? And if you guys want my advice, I really don't think that your Facebook should be like just, showing everything that's happening in your life. Because you guys know, number one, there's a lot of jealousy out there. There's a lot of hasad. And many people, they're looking to you as if you have like that perfect life. And you guys know there are no two couples that have a perfect life. So you're just causing jealousy. And I really don't think that everything in your life should be known to everybody. I mean, you have to have private things in your life. Okay? So for this reason, everything your son does, everything your daughter does, everything that you and your husband achieve, all the successes in your lives. I mean, you guys have to agree with each other. What can I post and what can I not post? So that's very important. Another thing is when we're talking about social media, that's one of the biggest problems between husband and wife and even the members of the family. We're not giving each other attention. We're sitting together in the, in the living room, the TV's on and everybody's on their what? Their iPhone. I'm sorry, but we have to understand something. When we're speaking with each other, we're talking about quality time. So put away the iPhone. You're never going to finish scrolling the Facebook or the Instagram. Give yourself a certain time and not when your husband is in the house, okay? And give him your attention. That's a kind of respect. And this way you're teaching your children also to respect you, okay? And here there's a very important thing is always laugh with your partner, but never laugh at your partner. Like a lot of people, they try to make fun of them and they're making a joke. Look at your dad, okay? And this is very important. And I want to say something to the husbands and never joke about the family, whether it's the husband or the wife. Like you're sitting there making fun of your mother-in-law, your sister-in-law, your father-in-law, your brother-in-law, and he himself also is making fun of your family. No, we have to teach each other respect. I mean, when you're disrespecting the grandparents or the aunts and the uncles or the nephews and the nieces in front of the children, how are they going to learn to respect them? So this is another important thing. And always when you sit together, put away the what? Put away the phones, unless you and him are looking at something together. So give each other quality time. That's a very important thing when it comes to what? Social media. All right. Okay, I'm just going to give one more and then I'm going to stop. All right. The last thing I want to talk about is make your home a haven. And what do I mean by a haven? A place where you all feel that you're safe. It's a place of refuge, a place where it's like a Jannah. You get what I'm saying? And that's the way children should also look to the parents, by the way. Oh, mom's coming home. Mom, I can't wait till you get home. Dad, I can't wait till you get home. It has to be something that they're looking forward to seeing. And also you can't wait till your husband gets home. And he can't wait till you get home. He feels like there's something missing. And there's a lot of problems in a lot of Muslim homes that they're like, oh God, when he gets into the house, it's like hellfire. I just wish that he could work 24 hours a day. I wish he could never come home. You guys, just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made companions for the people in the Jannah, which are called the huriyat, al-hur al-ain, okay? We women in this world, we should be like companions for our husbands. They love us. They can't wait till they come home. It's something for him to what? To look forward to. He's coming home, not with the onions and the garlic, and her hair is, and this, and she's got a bad smell and this and that. No, he's waiting to come home and to greet his wife and to kiss her or to get a hug from him. So every person's, house should be a place of tranquility, emotionally safe. This is very important. A lot of people just look to the physical safety of the house. that, you know, I'm in a house where, alhamdulillah, there's nothing dripping, no electricity shocks. Okay, physically, but also emotionally safe. You know, I feel that my husband, he's bringing me the tranquility. Sister Abby is asking, how can we make him realize that he should be home and not working, like overworking? We talked about that last time, and it depends on the husband's work, but we tried to, you know, like compromise on something that at least he's there for one meal, like either it's breakfast or it's lunch or it's dinner. Even if he's traveling, he should always call the family and be with them. He should give the family quality time. And of course, we have to say that there's something called prioritizing. We said that. We said Allah comes first and then the wife and the children. So for this reason, I mean, life is not just working. Okay, he can be working, but he should have a vacation. There should be a certain period of each day that he meets his what? He meets his wife and his children, you know, not just when it's time to sleep. So that's a very important thing that we have to all pay attention to. So yes, we have to, you know, talk about that. Is it okay to celebrate anniversary? I don't want to say it's like a celebration in terms of Eid or something like that, but it's okay for us like every year to say, okay, we've been married for 2 years, for 3 years, something to look forward, you know, and for that day to show us. Let me tell you guys something. You know, when you think about your birthday, if you look to it in the aspect that I'm talking about, you'll be like, well, actually, you know, every year that goes from my life, you know, I'm growing every year, but it's taking from my life. You get what I'm saying? So for this reason, you're like, oh, I have to pay attention. So it's not about the birthday cake. It's not about the candles. It's not about the gifts. I'm getting closer to my grave. I'm getting older. So every day and every year that goes from me, it's like a part is going from me. So for this reason, it's not really a celebration for a birthday. And the same thing when you're talking about an anniversary, you're like, wow, we've been married for 2 years. We've been married for 10 years. We've been married for 20 years. So here you're like, we want to cherish the moments. I mean, any time one of us could die. So I think every day should be a celebration between the husband and the wife for them to cherish the moment, you know? And for this reason, we don't want to keep following the people of the West. I know all of us were born and raised in the West, and they've got Mother's Day, and they've got Father's Day, and they've got Valentine's Day. But you guys, I want to tell you something. Every day is a Valentine's Day, even though I'm against Valentine's and the story behind it. But let's say every day is a love day between the husband and the wife. Every day is a Mother's Day. Every day is a Father's Day. That's the way Islam taught us. If in the West they have problems with disrespecting the parents and leaving them and not being there except for once every year, that's not something that we have as Muslims. So we really don't need these days because we don't have the problem. It's like me telling one of you guys, could you take this medicine? And you're like, but I don't have the disease. Why should I take the medicine? I'm like, just take it. You're like, no, I refuse to take the medicine because I don't have the disease. The same thing we're telling the West. You guys have Mother's Day, and you guys have Father's Day, and you have Teacher's Day, and you have Women's Day. MashaAllah, every day a day. You guys have a problem in the West. You have a problem with respecting your parents, with being with your parents when they need you. So for this reason, you guys tried to find a solution, which was making, you know, an anniversary or making a Mother's Day or a Father's Day. But we as Muslims don't have that problem. So why should we take your solution? It might be a solution for you, but we don't have the disease in order for us to take that solution. So I believe that we should always, you know, think every day should be a cherished day in our marriage. Yes, sister, Fariza, you had a question or you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I had a question about, if you don't mind.
Yes, go ahead. Feel free.
What you say in the court, like whole what the woman shouldn't do. I feel like I do these things sometimes to my husband, even if I don't mind
Yeah,
that.
well, by the way, none of us are perfect. By the way, all of us did these things.
Yeah, my marriage is like we're in the home alone, like two youngs, and we do fight each other. We don't like get agreed on some things. It's like
Yeah.
a like, and now I see that it's mostly my fault rather than him. But he's also in like fourth, but how to correct myself and say him that I was wrong actually, and he also has to like connect with me.
Yeah. Let me tell you something, Sister Farisa. You don't have to tell him you're wrong right now. Just change. You start changing. And then he's going to be like, oh, you made a big change. And you're like, well, I noticed that, nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. But I really do believe that maybe I had a misunderstanding on this certain thing. And I felt that, it's never too late to change. And that's why I'm telling you guys these things, because all of us fall into these problems. All of us, I mean, none of us are perfect, okay? But it's different percentages of us doing this and that. We all make these, mistakes, but believe me, as women, I'm not saying that also the men have to know these things, and also the men have to, practice them. But I believe that we women, we have a big impact on the household. So if we start changing ourselves, the household will start to change. And like I said, why don't we be role models to our husbands too? So when he sees me changing, I'm sure he's going to change. Okay. So you don't have to necessarily tell him that I was doing this and that wrong. Just change. And he's going to understand that you woke up, that you were aware of what you were doing was wrong. And you're going to notice that a lot of the conflicts and the disagreements, they're going to like fade away, a lot of them. And it's going to help you a lot with the parenting. So this is a type of struggle. It's a type of jihad to change yourself. And this is the biggest jihad. I believe that it's the biggest jihad for us to change ourselves. Sometimes we have to go against our egos and our pride for the safety of the household. Okay. So it's
Thanks
never
so much, Jazakallah khairan.
it's never too late to change. And that's why I was so I wanted to make sure that all of these things reach you. This way you know what you're going for. You feel like you're more secure. You feel like your parenting makes more sense. And it's like, okay, it's my to-do task, so you feel like you know where you're going. But without taking this kind of information and talking about how we have to be, it's like, okay, I'm just going to do tarbiyah for my children, and I don't know where to start. You're messing up all the tarbiyah. You guys know, if we parents do not follow what we're talking about here, this marital advice, you know what we're going to be doing? We're going to be contradicting ourselves. We're just going to make it hard to be parenting and hard to be parents, because we're going to be teaching them things that we ourselves are not practicing. And this is a big haram in Islam, because we have to practice what we preach. Am I correct? So that's a very important thing. Okay. So I want to, like in 1 minute, just wrap it up and say that we have to try to make our houses the place of what? The place of refuge, the place of emotional safety, the place where our husbands are looking forward to coming to. And we also are looking forward to coming to, because if you make your house a Jannah, he's going to help you to make it a Jannah. And if you want to make it a hellfire, he's going to help you to make it a hellfire. You can make your house a paradise, a worldly paradise, and you can make it a hell. So it's all in your hands to try to be a good companion to your husband. Okay. Right now I'm going to stop with these 8 advice, the pieces of advice that I talked about, because I just want to tell you something. It's not about giving 20 pieces of advice in one class. The most important thing about any knowledge that we take, and this is what distinguishes us from the companions of the Prophet Muhammad SAW. When they took the Quran, they used to read 10 ayahs, understand them, follow and practice them. So for this reason, our next class, inshallah, is going to be on Thursday. And so during this period of time, I want each and every single one of you guys, inshallah, and me, of course, I'm one of you guys, to pay attention to the 8 pieces of advice that I talked about, and to start to practice them in your life. And I am sure that it's going to make a major impact on your life with your husband, and a major impact on your life with your children also. So let us practice these 8 pieces of advice that I talked, so that inshallah on Thursday, when we take the rest of the advice, that have to do with the marital, the marriage between the husband and the wife, the spouse, inshallah. That way we'll be taking it step by step, because we really do need to work on ourselves before we start talking about how to deal with a child from age this to that. What are the things we want to build in that child? It's never going to make sense if we ourselves are not practicing these things. So I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help us to be the best version of ourselves, and that we can make an impact on our husbands and on our families by just following the teachings of Islam and being a better person. And I believe that the more you do jihad and the more you do struggling in order to make yourself a better person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you in this world before the afterlife. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the hearts are in the hands of Allah, whether it's the hearts of your husbands or the hearts of your children. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He sees that you are making a change, Allah will change your life. Change is in the hands of Allah after you choose to make the change on your part. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma bi qawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Allah doesn't change the situation of the people unless they themselves choose to change themselves. And that's what we're going to be working on, inshallah, throughout life, to change ourselves in order to be able to change the people, and most importantly, our spouses, and our children. I really do thank you guys for being a part of this class. You guys don't know how much support you guys are giving me, and being a part of this class and giving me your points of views and